Welcome to Just Asia, AHRC TV's weekly human rights program. These are the headlines. India's Irom Sharmila rearrested 2 days after release. Freedom of expression and assembly in Indonesia threatened by intolerant police. Thai conservation group harassed. Pakistani women in the lead. International recognition of their work. Urgent appeals this week from Indonesia. Welcome to AHRC TV's Just Asia. I am Julia Roblondo. This week, Just Asia begins with India, where activist Irom Sharmila has been on hunger strike for 15 years. Sharmila was rearrested on Wednesday, March 2nd, 2 days after being acquitted of charges of attempted suicide. Sharmila has been arrested and released several times for attempting to commit suicide, which is a crime under Section 309 of India's Penal Code. Sharmila rejects the allegations of attempting suicide, saying she is fasting for the end of the Armed Forces Act. This act has caused widespread violations in Manipur and granted impunity to law enforcement. During her arrest and detention, the Indian government force-feeds her food and medicine through her nose. In Indonesia, freedom of expression was again threatened by intolerance and police support. The turn-left cultural festival was forcibly dispersed from the Ismail Marzuki Park in Jakarta on February 27th. The festival is meant to stimulate thought about Indonesia's leftist history and revisit the violence of 1965, but it was denounced by anti-communists as being part of a new communist movement. Organizers were then forced to move the event up to the Jakarta Legal Aid Foundation building. The police dispersal of the festival reveals their lack of independence and that they can be easily influenced by intolerant masses. As a state body, the police is bound to Indonesia's constitution and law, which guarantees the right to freedom of assembly and opinion. Moving to Thailand, a conservation group called on public officials to allow people's participation in renewing a mining permit in a protected forest area of Loei province. The Kowloon Subdistrict Administrative Organization Council was scheduled to hold a closed-door meeting on February 16th to consider the permit renewal. On February 15th, community activists stayed inside the administrative organization compound with 20 police officers standing guard over them the entire night, to prevent others from joining them the next morning. On the 16th, some 300 army and police officials were stationed in and around the compound. Declaring the compound a restricted area, authorities said the public assembly law would be enforced. The activists were given 30 minutes to vacate the area. The permit renewal meeting was finally postponed until May. Next, Just Asia brings you to the story of 4 Pakistani women who have been internationally recognized for their outstanding work. In one of the most conservative and patriarchal societies of the world, where women do not have the right to free movement, education, or independent decision, these 4 women have challenged the status quo. Sharmeen Obaid Chinoy, 37, has made history as the only Pakistani to win 2 Oscars. On 28 February this year, Chinoy received her second Oscar for Best Short Subject Documentary Film. Her film, A Girl in the River, The Price of Forgiveness, traces the story of 18-year-old Saba, who was shot by her relatives to redeem their family honor and dumped into a river. She miraculously survived to tell her story. The subject of honor killings is not discussed much in Pakistan, mainly because most of the crimes go unreported and the victims remain unknown. Nergis Mavalvala, Associate Department Head of Physics at MIT, is a member of the team that recently announced the scientific milestone of detecting gravitational waves, ripples in space and time, hypothesized by Albert Einstein a century ago. The team is likely to be nominated for the Nobel Prize in Physics. Malala Yousafzai received the Nobel Peace Prize in 2014, together with Indian child rights campaigner Kailash Satyarthi. Malala is the youngest winner of the Nobel Award at the age of 18, surviving a murderous attack by the Taliban in October 2012. Malala is the flag bearer of girls and women rights. Shad Begum, an activist from Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, received the International Women of Courage Award by the U.S. in 2012. She has been recognized for her contribution in improving women's lives in conservative communities through microcredit, education, and health services. Finally, in Urgent Appeals Weekly, Just Asia reports two stories from Indonesia. The Asian Human Rights Commission called upon the Indonesian government to continue investigations into the brutal attack of two land right activists. Although the prosecutor in East Java has announced 35 suspects, further investigation is necessary to uncover any state involvement. In another case, inadequate punishment was given to 4 police officers of Sungailat Police Resort for torturing and killing a suspect. Despite recognizing that victim died from torture, the judges sentenced the police to only 3 years in prison. Torture remains a grave problem in Indonesia. In many cases where torture victims have died, the perpetrators enjoy only light punishment. No significant effort has been initiated by the government to seriously eradicate torture. That is all for this episode of Just Asia. For more on these and other issues, please visit www.humanrights.asia. Thank you for watching and see you next week.